It was a terrifying experience, you know. I imagine the most shook up one was probably Steve. He was only like 17. I think he actually lied about his age to get the job out there.
Yeah, I was 17, so I was the kid. I thought we was going to go to jail for murder.
Those times I was saying we need to go back. Those times I was saying we need to go get help. You know, I mean, it went back. Everybody was going back and forth, you know, in their own minds and between each other. When we got back there and we looked around the area and we couldn't find Travis, that's when it hit Mike. Mike and Travis were best buddies then, you know, and stuff. And I think he felt really bad about taking off and leaving him like that.
It was pretty hectic, and it was very emotional at that point. You know, your mind just takes off.
We came off the mountain after we was looking for Travis and we couldn't find him. And we pulled in there and Kenny got out and called the sheriff's department.
It didn't come directly to me, it came to a deputy sheriff in Heber who called me on the phone, and then he gave me a little more detail on it.
When I arrived there were 6 young men. They were just stomping around, and a couple of them were crying. And I tried to get just as close to each one of them as I could to see if I could detect odors of marijuana or alcohol or anything like that.
He says that he didn't believe us or disbelieve us. You know, he was going to be neutral. But before we went up on the hill to radio, for him to radio the sheriff, we better be certain, because we could get in a lot of trouble.
Travis Walton was just 22 years old when this happened, and he was in this tiny little town of Snowflake, Arizona. This little town that was founded by Mormons. Everyone knew everyone in Snowflake. So it's not just like he's just in New York City or some other big town where he's anonymous. The question is, what the hell happened to this young man? How is it that he could just disappear?
We're a rough-looking bunch then, you know, and a bunch of us out there with chainsaws and that, and some conflicts here and there, you know. So they just immediately started assuming, well, they killed this guy, you know, because they weren't going to believe that wild story we were telling them.
The police, and no one can blame them, had to look at the much more obvious real-world possibility that these hard-working, tough blue-collar guys, even though they were friends, there was a falling out, there was a fight, an argument, and one way or another, Travis lost his life. The body was hidden.
When we went to search the next day, they split us up. They had a deputy with each group. And the whole time, the deputies asked me, you know, and tell me, well, if you just tell us where the body is and what you did with Travis, we can all go home and get this over with.
I think we'd made contact with the dog handler from Arizona State Prison. He came on site and started from the point where it had been pointed out as where the incident occurred.
The days proceeded on, and the helicopter went around, and people expanded and expanded, and we never found a footprint or a sign anywhere of Travis Walton.
They took me first, and I was scared to death. I figured I was gonna flunk it no matter what. I didn't want to come here. I tried to sneak out the back door the day of the polygraph test, because all week long I've been hearing, well, they're gonna set it up to make you guys look guilty, and y'all ain't never gonna come out of that jailhouse.
We couldn't get out. You know, we weren't, it was like being under arrest, but they didn't just say we were, you know. But it wasn't no different. We weren't leaving. Nobody was going anywhere, you know, until it was completely done.
The polygraph is not perfect. It's, in fact, one of the most awful tests that anyone would have to take. You're strapped in with tubes around your chest, and you've got wires connected to you, and I've taken multiple polygraphs, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
I designed the questions. The entire test is established by research from Dr. Raskin out of the University of Utah, who done many, many years of research on its validity and its accuracy.
It took about 2 hours, and it was like 4 questions over and over and over.
Did you murder Travis Walton? No. Did you see what seemed to be a flying saucer? Yes. Did you see the object hit him with a beam of light? Yes.
We could have refused to take the test, you know, we didn't have to take it, but, you know, we wanted to get the, you know, get the truth out.
And I passed it at 95%, I think, or something like that.
They all passed that test.
Most people still didn't believe it, you know, and the Sheriff Gillespie definitely didn't believe it.
I think that they all were trying to tell the truth about everything.
And then what happens? Travis returns. 5 days growth of beard, lost about 10 pounds of weight, and the frenzy begins.
Okay, now could you take us back to this morning when whoever it was that first got word that he was back?
Okay, what happened was that Grant Neff, which is my brother-in-law, he got a telephone call.
Uh-huh.
He answered it. Grant, he says, "This is Travis. I'm back. I need help." And he says, "Wait a minute, fella." He says, "You got the wrong number. I'm sorry." And he says, "Don't hang up on me, Grant." He says, "This is Travis." He says, "I need help bad." He asked him where he was at, and he said he was in a telephone booth out by the ENCO station in Heber.
I just looked at my mom and says, "I told you we didn't kill him."
When I did hear that Travis had been returned, it was almost as unbelievable as the real thing. Travis was my best friend.
And it was Dwayne that picked up Travis?
Yes, which is the closest one to him anyway out of all the brothers.
Okay.
He said that when he reached in the booth to grab Travis, he said Travis started scooting away from him, trying to get away from him. He reached down, picked him up, and held him in his arms. He said, just like grabbing a baby, he just cuddled right up and started crying. They weighed him, he'd lost 12 pounds. Said he hadn't eaten in 5 days. He was in terrible shape.
I was trying to tell him what had happened, you know, just trying to get it out. And it was just too traumatic. I was just, it was all broke up. He said something about how concerned my mother had been in those days, and I didn't understand. It became apparent in the exchange there that I was thinking this was still the same night, and he said, "Travis, feel your face." And I reached up and felt that I had a 5-day growth of beard, and you know, that came as really a terrible shock.
Travis Walton reappeared after several days with a bizarre story about a ride in an unidentified flying object. But it's been basically a second-hand story. Travis has been in hiding and has not met with the media. Consequently, there have been a lot of questions about the truthfulness of what Travis has had to say.
I didn't know he was back until that following night. My mom said someone came by and said Travis is back, but he's in a Tucson hospital.
I really kind of went catatonic for a little bit there. Went back, had a very emotional reunion with my mother, and it was just tears my heart to even, you know, think to this day, you know, that what she was going through.
Have you had much communication with the news media on this?
Yes, they've been in and out all the time. They're trying to corner Mom. We're trying to keep Mom away from them. We've even got some kooks in here now that's coming in and out to see the freak show, as they call it.
Everyone descends, not just your local UFO groups, UFO researchers. Sure, they were there. But on top of that, you have media. You have the National Enquirer, you know, the great tabloid rag that was covering things like this.
The first night, I lay down in bed and the phone rang. It did not stop till daylight or after.
I literally sometimes would be on 2 telephones at the same time because I had phone calls from all over the world.
I was called by Canada, I was called by England, I was called by Japan, I was called by Russia, I was called by several Asian countries. I was called call all night long.
We did an interview at the headquarters sometime later with the news crew there. They asked some questions regarding the test and the results and so on.
Basically, we all told them the same thing, that we're investigating and didn't have any final results.
The media scrutiny was so intense. Once it was even suspected that when my brother was involved, the reporters were knocking on the door there constantly. When we went to leave the hospital, and somebody yelled out, "There he is," and they chased us into traffic.
Travis, why didn't you bring your story to the media?
Well, my family told me about the news people and all the people that were crowding around. and I was just in no condition to talk to anybody, especially, you know, a mob of people like that. I just couldn't handle it.
Plus the warnings that that my brother had and my family had from various quarters, that it was a dangerous situation as to who might get a hold of him. Not necessarily that the sheriff's department would be involved in any sort of foul play or underhanded attempt, but what if they were to hand me over to some government agency, and to heck with what damage that might do to me, you know, if they were after information or certain things that they considered important.
Does he remember what this thing looked like? The craft? Yes. Yes.
We were working on the Mogollon Rim in the Sitgreaves National Forest, which is the largest ponderosa pine forest in the world. It stretches all the way from south of the Grand Canyon clear into New Mexico. There's a much of it that's relatively untouched because it was, you know, one of the last frontiers.
I was the crew boss. It was my contract, and I hired Travis and several other guys. Travis had been working for me for practically 10 years already.
It was gratifying because we were actually, you know, improving the forest. It was called timber stand improvement, to remove damaged and dead trees and clear out certain overgrowth to limit the fire danger and protect the forest. When we weren't working, you know, the beauty of the surroundings was just something that just has an effect that, you know, it's really just hard to describe. You have to be there to appreciate the freshness of the wilderness and being in touch with nature, the animals, the trees.
At times